Hey, Demonic Pacts is almost here, or maybe you're catching this video a little bit later and the league has already started and you're just kind of curious what my plan is. I know in a few videos earlier I did share my tentative plan. That plan has since changed, so let's go over the details. So I'm still picking Endless Harvest, my first relic. This is a nice AFK. There's a lot of benefits to this, 2x resources, making your gathering skills twice as fast. Overall solid relic. Tier 2, if you watched my most recent video, I'll leave a link above and you can watch it there. But I compare Hotfoot to Woodsman, especially with the task list being revealed. We know that there's a lot more early hunter tasks versus agility tasks, and so this is going to be better. I've also thought about how this synergizes with some early seeds, which you can convert and change transmutation and get started on farming a little bit earlier instead of waiting for larcenists to pickpocket master farmers, which is a nice benefit. I'm also going to be going Zaya first, and so this has a nice benefit of fletching everything at once, and that works with Wintertot, so that's pretty nice. So overall, I think Wisdom's going to be a nice play. I did make a few changes, and I think it's just going to synergize well with kind of my new game time decisions. In addition to that, because we're not going Hotfoot, we're not getting the early agility levels. Because of that, I'm not going to be picking Map of Alacrity. Now, that said, my regions have really crappy teleports with Evil Eye. There's like very few in Kandarin and Tiranwin, and so I might still just make the case for Map of Alacrity, but the problem is if you don't have those agility levels, you can't use the shortcuts. So like, for example, teleporting to Zulrah becomes painful, and so Evil Eye just kind of gets me right directly to Zulrah without having to, get through an agility shortcut. So that's why I'm kind of, keeping an eye on Evil Eye. I don't know if that's going to be the overall best play for the long term of the league, but I think right now I'm just going to have to be a bullet I bite, and then just adjust my teleportation through other means. Moving on to tier 4 transmutation. I know I was eyeing Butler's Bell as well. If you didn't catch that video, that's a great video as well. Butler's Bell is super powerful. I think transmutation, I've looked at some synergies and it's just really nice. I looked at Raging Echoes. There were some nice tasks around crafting for like Dragon Hide, for Blue Dree Hide, Green Dree Hide, and stuff like that. Also early on for me, if I get to here, I can transmute cow hides into like snake skin to green D hides and kind of craft my own gear. I still need to be able to get to 70 crafting, and so transmutation will help. Also, we can transmute and change all the gems into the higher level ones, and so we can just transmute and make all of our best in slot jewelry as well for the early game into glory amulets. And so I think there's just a lot of good utility here. I think the magic part is probably the least effective one for me, just because I plan on going a mage build. Getting 200 magic won't be so problematic, I think, overall, but I still think that the rest of the other skills that you get kind of fixed from converting the things up and down will be really nice. There's also a lot of good like farming tasks and herb tasks that like you can use this to kind of go up and down and kind of do with all the stacked up seeds you're going to get from the early woodsman hunter grind that you're going to do. Moving on, Larcenist, no changes here. I'm going Tiranwin. Larcenist is just going to pair so extremely well with that, as well as getting seeds and everything else, and so I think the combination is just phenomenal. Number 6, no changes here. Going to be Culling Spree. It's going to be a solid relic. I do need to unlock Slayer as much as possible, and so because of that, I'm definitely going to be going Culling Spree. There's a really small chance I make a game time decision and go to Eternal Sustenance. Like, infinite food is really nice. I am not a expert PVM player. However, my regions don't necessarily need too much heal, and I plan on converting my overheal with magic spells once I unlock the quadrant from Kandarin. And so I think I'm going to pass on Eternal Sustenance, and Grimoire, I just have access to all the best prayer things, and I don't need Ancients for anything, and so Culling Spree is just kind of like my default pick. That said, Eternal Sustenance is very good if you don't plan on going the mage build with overheal. Moving on to tier 7, Reloaded is pretty straightforward. Just go to Soul Harvest, fix rune crafting, fix prayer, auto loot kind of bones, I guess. It's just a really nice way to kind of round out the build and finish off a couple skills really fast and easily. At this point, I think Larcenist and Thieving will probably be my AFK to 200 mil, but if I really wanted to, I got a lot of things here. I could easily make prayer and rune crafting my 200 mil skills as well. So it's just a good option. I don't see any benefit I'm going to get out of flow state. I Reloaded could benefit from going some of the other things. Conniving clues would be nice to get a lot of clues done as well. They have said that they would reduce the number of clues tasks, but I think there's always going to be a decent amount of them, and it also helps a lot with the collection log tasks as well. But overall, I think Soul Harvest is going to be my play. Moving on, lastly, we're going to have Minion. I think Minion is just going to be the most fun utility, kind of constant DPS that you're going to use throughout the game. So I think Minion is going to be the best for me. All right, so let's talk about tasks really quick. So my regions, as I mentioned, I think my plan is, everyone's going to unlock Varlamorn and Karamja, right? I think my first region pick was originally Kandarin. The problem here is Kandarin requires high-level Slayer for the bosses, for the gear and items, and so I think Kandarin is just, because of that, I'm going to push it to the end. I'm actually going to pick Current first. Maybe I get some early Wintertot. There's a lot of generally good early and mid tasks that you can do at current without needing to do any of the PVM stuff yet. My biggest concern is getting the combat mastery, the demonic packs unlocked, which will be a lot easier once I get Taranwin as my second region, but I'll only get a few points here. However, General and Karamja just have a couple that we can leverage, get enough points there, and kind of get a couple more from current until we get the Taranwin, and that will just blast. And then lastly, we'll end up in Kandarin. By the time we get here, we'll hopefully have the Slayer levels to just go and farm the bosses and get those good drops, which will be great. Moving on to my early strategy. Okay, so originally I was planning on going Blind Bag, farming Perilous Moons, getting the gear, and just going heavy into Blind Bag and Echoes and coming down here. I have since changed that plan, especially because I'm going Zaya early. If I can get a Hispori kills and farm Hispori, that bow I think is going to be really nice with the automatic heal and prayer regeneration. That will hopefully just kind of make it for a free Jad kill again with the bow, which will be really nice. And so I think I'm just going to force it. I think I just made the decision that I'm not going to farm Perilous Moons at the start, and so that just kind of made it straightforward and easy for me. Range also benefits, in CG a lot easier than getting a two-hand setup and getting maybe multiple Halabrids that could do a Blind Bag combo or trigger a ranged echo, right? And so I think this will just be better overall. There's not a lot of regeneration. At this point, we only have 50 points of regeneration, so we'll have to make sure we just buy low-level runes and arrows once we start speccing into mage. But yeah, I think this is a nice 7-point setup. I think I'm just going to do this to get to the one tick faster bow setup, and then I'm going to start pathing up into the mage area here. I'm trying to be as efficient as I can with my points early on so I can have a both really powerful range and mage setup by the time I get the Taranwin, and what that'll do is it'll really blast right through CG. I should cut through, a Gohunlif like paper and be able to farm the drops really, really fast. This is only 13 points. It's very easy to kind of keep fleshing this out, getting the regeneration here for the healing of the 1 point here, getting another regeneration here for air, getting also a lot of the bow mastery nodes here. So I think this is going to be my early setup going into CG. I'll get both benefits for range and mage, and then I'm just going to kind of continue kind of filling out this area for my early game tree. I think at the late game, I'm going to be going the prayer mage build for sure. But until I get there, I think this is going to be a really solid way to start. I'm not actually sure on what order I'm going to pick the things. I think I'm going to get this regeneration and this regeneration first. And then once I get those two, and then I get everything else, I'll kind of just keep going into more and more damage, right? So we have some nice damage here to get more ranged echoes. We have these here for ranged echoes. This makes range more powerful. If I do get a Bofa early, I'll probably first prioritize these points. If I don't get a Bofa and just for whatever reason I'm going a little bit dry, I might just switch over to start farming Zulrah with the Hispori bow, and then if I get a Trident there, I might just do that. Again, we're not going to be using the blowpipe because we're not going into the throne areas. So our plan is either the Toxic Trident here or the Bofa here. Whichever comes first, we'll do that. And this will kind of be an early tree. This is only 29 points, but this should be enough to farm Jad, to farm all the early game content. When I get to farming Echo, Moxie, or anything else, I'll just kind of power through if I can with the Bofa. If the damage here just seems to be crappy, I'm sure Moxie at this point I can just go and AFK train melee and then just do it the melee way with a bunch of really, really other powerful gear. And so we'll see. I don't think there'll be any problems. At this point, we should have tons of accuracy and be able to cut through any boss like Paper, or at least any early game boss like Paper. And so yeah, that's kind of my main discussions. This relic, this image has been really helpful, just trying to think about like what early gear you're gonna get, right? It's like early on in current, there's really nothing here for me, and that's okay because we're just gonna be focusing on tasks and using that as like a support area to kind of move on. Tyrannoin is actually where all of my core gear is, right? The full crystal, the Bofa, as well as the toxic trident, and then lastly in Kandrin, we're going to be going for the Echo quadrant here, which will be really powerful. But then all this stuff here, it just requires high Slayer levels, right? Everything from the tentacle to occult. And so it'll be nice. I will miss out on the Zenite jewelry until really late, which is kind of unfortunate, but I think that's one thing I'm kind of okay to give up. Kandrin also has a lot of really good early combat mastery points as well. And so that's another thing I'm going to give up. But I think I'll be able to kind of finish out Kurend and Tyrannoin, and then be able to unlock Kandrin. And it'll be a nice way to kind of just get a huge boost in gear and in content as well. Anyways, so I think that's pretty much my plan. Thanks so much for watching. Best of luck at League launch. Hope you have a lot of fun. If you want to stay up to date on my progress and things are happening, I'll try my best to kind of come out with the video every day or every couple of days, and let you know how it's going. So definitely subscribe for those updates.